Impostor Syndrome. Everyone who tries something new probably go through these at some point, right? I'm sure you felt it sometime in your life, and when you try to chase one of your dreams, it suddenly hits like a truck and makes you doubt every single thing. Hello everyone, I'm Doxia, and in this video I want to share a very special devlog about what has been going on with Murk Online, and not exactly for the best reasons. Lately I've been fighting a lot with myself about some key parts of the game, and I was even questioning if I should make this devlog or not. But like I said since the first video and also on my Patreon, I want to share everything that happens during the development of this game. Creating an MMORPG is not easy. There are so many mechanics, systems and pipelines to think about, and like in any high-pressure job, at some point you start doubting your skills and your work. And if you are watching this and you are into game development or creating art for games, I think it is important to see this side too. Not everything in game development is fancy, easy or happy all the times. Sometimes you struggle, sometimes imposter syndrome really kicks in, sometimes you spend days or weeks going back and forward without really much toward the end game goal. But that is okay, and I really want you to know that. Every second you spend trying new things, testing new mechanics, testing new art styles, trying a different pipeline, all of that is still progress. You improve your skills, your resilience, that's an important skill for game development, and your ability to learn new things, and that is always valuable. And in my case, I know my weakest point, I know the area where I'm not really good at, so for the past few weeks I've been going back and forth trying different art styles and different directions for the game, and I'll be sharing all of that in this devlog. If you had a similar experience recently, if you struggle with a pipeline or a direction in your own project, don't be shy and share it in the comments. You might be going through the exact same thing as someone else here in the community, and I think it is important to let people know they are not alone in this fight. Everyone struggles, everyone has a different experience throughout the development of any project. Well, with all of that said, let's jump into what happened with me the last weeks. Let me show you the current state of the game. This is really an early phase of Murk Online, and also my current struggles and the consequences of my imposter syndrome. As you may know, I'm a developer and a tech artist. If you show me a concept and ask me to figure out how to build it, I will do it and I will enjoy the process. That's what I love the most about game development. So for the first phase of the game, I got some assets from Unit Asset Store and jumped straight into development, building the basic mechanics for Murk Online. I got the click to move working, then I got the multiplayer side working with Fusion. That was my first time trying that. For the sake of learning, I even created a keyboard movement with WASD instead of just click to move. Then I started adding the basic character systems, because I know the game will need stats, conditions, movement restrictions and all of that RPG structure. After that, I planned the whole skill and combat system that I want for the game. I know I want something inspired by Murk Online and WildStar, something more fast and action based, so I defined 4 main type of skills: projectiles, cone attacks, for example for melee, ranged AoEs, and entity selection attacks or buffs, like select a player and buff or heal. Each type has its own rules and variations. For example, an AoE can be a circle or a square. A cone attack can be an 120-degree slash, melee slash, or a full 360 whirlwind for a barbarian, for example. And then we can combine those systems to build more complex combos. A warrior can, for example, do 2 cone slashes, then a whirl spin, and then a big AoE. So everything of that with the combos and every single type of skill is all developed. But the goal is to build the foundations first, all the scripts, systems and components, so later we can go wild and create whatever spell we want for whatever class we want. And by the way, everything that I'm saying here, I'm talking about, will be shared with you, and I'll be creating tutorials on how to build every single system and mechanics on my Patreon. Let me know in the comments which system you have the most interested in, so I can focus more on that. After the skill casting system, I moved into character stats and the combat system overall. I'll explain that much more deeply in the future, because that system, the stats system, is another very complex mechanic in any RPG. And in an upcoming Patreon exclusive video, I'll go through the game design document where I'll share my ideas about combat stats, how classes affect final stats and substats like HP, defense, attack power, critical chance, and much more. We will also go through things like gear progression, online structure with fusion and playfab for now, player interactions, and much more. So if you want to support the project and get access to behind the scenes, polls, tutorials and assets, check out my Patreon page, the link is in the description. With just $1 you can be part of Murk Online and have your ideas heard during development. With all of that developed, combat, classes, enemies, and the foundations for the spells, it was finally time to start replacing the placeholder assets I got from the store with our own. And this is where I've been fighting lately. So let me give you a bit of context about my work and myself. For more than 10 years I've been working in the 3D industry, mainly in motion graphics and interactive installations. I started this channel, Doxia Studio, sharing Houdini projects and tutorials about visual effects and 3D motion graphics to help the art community. So I know my way around the 3D world. I know how to model, maybe not super complex realistic game assets, but I understand the whole pipeline: modeling, sculpting, UVs, texture, painting, and importing things into game engines like Unity or Unreal. And as you probably already understand, I also know how to code, and I love figuring out complex systems, so that side is not really an issue for me. Now, the thing I know I struggle is, and I'm not really good at, is concept art and illustration. I always enjoy much more the part where someone gives me the concept and asks me to build it. If you give me a concept and ask me to model it, or if you give me a game mechanic and ask me to develop it, I enjoy that technical side much more than the conceptual drawing side. And I think this is important. With experience you learn where you are good, what you love, and where you are weak. And yes, concept art and illustration are definitely some of my weak points. So then comes the obvious question, and you might be asking this: how do you build an MMORPG if you can't just sit down and draw all the concepts for it? That's where my friend and my partner from Upfox Labs comes in. He is an amazing illustrator, concept artist, and motion designer. If you check our first game, Folly of the Wizards, he created all of that gorgeous art for the game. And before that game, like many indie devs, we also had other older projects and concepts waiting to be used. One of them is Senzu World, another roguelike game we imagined with some friends. We were in total 4 indie devs. We made a lot of content for it: creatures, biomes, character concepts, items, and much more. Unfortunately, that project had to stop, but we kept all the assets because in my opinion they are really good, and the team put a lot of effort into them. As you can see on this mirror board, we have a lot of content. So my first thought was, why not use all of that content that is just laying it out there and give it life in Murk Online? And that's where the struggle really started. On one hand, I know 3D, but we all know making a game in 3D is complex and takes a lot of time. And right now I'm practically alone creating this game. It's my own challenge from art to development. My partner can only help during his free time because he has another full-time work, and mostly with 2D concept art, not 3D. He is a 2D motion designer and illustrator. So I started wondering if 3D was really the best route, especially because I already had a lot of content from the old project, but it was all 2D and 2D animation. So I thought, why don't I just learn 2D illustration? I know some 2D motion designs from my previous work. I'm not an expert, but I can also do some things. And maybe I could also get some help from AI tools like generating objects or gear from different angles, because again, I can I can't easily draw everything that I imagine. So I tried. I spent a few days learning the best 2D pipeline, trying to understand what would work best for an RPG with gear progression and gear swapping. For example, on Folly of the Wizards, we had the relic systems where your character would update with the relics you have, but for an RPG, the gear visualization, it's different, it's complex, because you can have an helm or a shoulders from one armor set and the rest of the gear is from another gear set, so you have to mix and match everything, and in 2D animation it's pretty hard to do that. Having that in mind, I found that the same pipeline that we use for Folly of the Wizards is still the best, using Photoshop, Spine 2D with the skin systems that you can swap your gear and then import them into Unity, and that would probably be the best pipeline. I even tried Toon Boom, Harmony, Clip Studio, Paint and some other tools, 2D tools to draw and animate, but I think Photoshop, Spine 2D with skins, it was probably the best pipeline. Then I started drawing, training my skills, trying 2D animations, exploring ideas with AI for gear in isometric views, and testing different art styles that I thought they could work in the game. After some studies, I moved things into Unity, but because I was changing the game into 2D, I know I had to refactor the code to work in 2D instead of 3D, because the first foundations that I developed were everything, they were on 3D. Because I don't like 2D top-down games, I adapted things to work in 2D but with an isometric perspective. There is just something about those pure top-down 2D perspectives, like in old games, that makes me dislike them. I don't know if it is because I'm a 3D artist, but I really can't enjoy those weird top-down views. But changing Murk Online into a 2D isometric game with a different perspective brought another problem that I was not aware of. Since this is an online game, collisions have to be detected properly and mainly by script. And with isometric perspectives, I can't just use simple circles anymore, because visually and mechanically they should behave more like squash ellipse instead of a simple circle. And yes, we could solve that with simple math if it wasn't a single player, but math also means CPU costs, and in an online game with hundreds of spells spawning and traveling, that becomes dangerous. We have to optimize as much as we can in the start the CPU costs of everything. So at that point, making Murk Online fully 2D with 2D system was starting to feel wrong to me, and I was back to the beginning. I was wondering again, should I just go full 3D? Then one day I was playing Don't Starve and something clicked. That game uses 2D in a 3D world. Same goes for Cult of the Lamb, another roguelike that I really enjoy. So I started thinking about 2.5D on this approach, using a 3D world with 2D assets. Would that work for Murk Online? That was the question. So as you may guess, the next few days I spent learning about those games, playing them, watching podcasts about them, and trying to understand how they build those amazing games. Then I jumped into Unity again and started adapting my project to use that same idea. And honestly, on paper, it looked great. I could use a 3D environment for movement, combat, collision detection, while also using the 2D assets we already had. I got the basic character working with Spine 2D animations and skins inside the Unity, got some creatures roaming in the world, and got combat working again without issues. But something still felt wrong. The environment and the overall feeling of the game were not immersive. So I thought, let me just focus on one small area, one zone, maybe 2 creatures, and work that space enough to see if the overall feeling is there, if I could easily make a nice zone where players would combat and grind. For this quick test, I used AI tools to generate some environment ideas that I could quickly paint over, edit, and test in Unity. And yes, for a few days I basically spent my time talking to AI tools. It feels weird saying this, I spent days talking to a computer, but honestly, for early experimentation, they are really useful, and I think this is where AI tools really help you a lot. especially if you are indie dev and a solo dev, that you have so many things to do. They help you to quickly picture if the idea would work, even suggest new ideas, and if it was not for AI tools, these kind of tests would take much longer. So I got some ideas, edited some assets and brought them into the game, and it was getting better, but something still wasn't there. Then I asked my partner from Upvox Lab and I asked him what he thought, and he said something that really clicked, and it was really important. He told me that everything was fighting for attention. The ground had too much detail, the foliage and props had too much detail and too much color. You couldn't clearly identify the player, the creatures and the world, and that is a huge game design flaw. That is something Don't Starve and Cult of the Lamb do really well. They have a lot of going on, but you can always read the scene properly. You know what is interactable, what is environment, and what is there to fight you. In Murk Online, I was not getting that at all, and that is when Impostor Syndrome got really strong and started pushing me down. And that was when I decided to stop. Not stop working, but stop doubting myself so much, and stop forcing myself into a route that I might not enjoy in the long run, because we all know developing indie games takes months and years. I'm not good at 2D illustration, and more importantly, I don't enjoy it the same way as I do in 3D work. I love creating 3D art and developing complex systems, even if they take longer. So why am I forcing myself into a path where I know I struggle? Just because it seems easier on paper, because I already have some assets here? The truth is, because I don't know my way around 2D well enough, I can't quickly draw what I have in my mind. I spend more time trying to make it work, and when it still doesn't combine well inside the world, it really brings me down. And because I was doubting myself so much, I wasn't happy with the current state of the game, and because of that I was not sharing content, and that is something I really don't want, especially for this type of project. I want you to have the full experience, the good and the bad part of creating a full game. That's exactly why I decided to record this devlog. I want you to have the full experience, and as you can see, I didn't progress much forward in the game. I was back after almost a month of work. I was back on the same state I was 1 month ago, with 3D systems working, and that was it. It would not be honest if I only shared the good parts of development. Being an indie developer is not always easy. It is not always fun and happy all the time. Sometimes you face challenges, bugs, and moments where you genuinely question if you are doing the right thing. And right now, that is where I am with Murk Online. I have the base mechanics working, movement, skill casting, combat, the stat systems, and online features are there, but for now I'm slowing down the development a bit and focusing more on the art side, trying to figure out the best approach, the best pipeline, and more importantly, the one I will actually enjoy doing. So right now I'm going back to Blender and Houdini and maybe other 3D softwares, and I'll be finishing my modeler character and creating a 3D creature and some environment props to test in Unity. Another thing that I want is start sharing weekly recaps on my Patreon, so you can be more involved with the process and the game. I also want to share my work plan and the full game design document there. And another important thing, I'm going to start recording the first tutorials on how to develop an MMORPG. So let me know in the comments which system you would like to learn first, or which ones you have the most interested in. So yes, I hope you really enjoyed this devlog. It's a little bit different from the happy devlogs with a lot of game progression and mechanics. Let me know in the comments if you had a similar experience. I hope this resonates with someone and helps you understand that if you are struggling with moments like this, or if Impostor Syndrome is kicking you in the head, you are not alone. Everyone questions themselves, and to be honest, that is how we improve and get better. So do not doubt yourself too much, just keep pushing forward. I hope this video motivates someone to take one step closer to their own dream as well. Because as you can see, I doubt myself, I made a lot of wrong decisions, and even so I didn't quit. I kept trying. asking friends, sharing what I was doing, and moving forward. Just like in games, you die, you respawn, and you try again, and sometimes ask friends for help, as you should do in the work and in real life. So don't stop, don't doubt yourself too much, just keep moving forward. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to check out my Patreon for exclusive content and be part of Murk Online. And if you had similar experiences, please feel free to share in the comments. Know that I read and reply as soon as possible, every single one. I hope you had a great time, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.